Hello and welcome to the Malika Writes channel. My name is Malika Writes and today I'm going to be doing a mini book haul and a book review of How We Live and How We Might Live by William Morris. So to start us off, I'm going to be showing you guys the books I've recently purchased. They're all recommendations or ones that I've spoken about before. So the first book is The Ring Givers by W.H. Canaway. This was recommended to me. I don't know if you can see this, my ring light is very bright. So this is the book that I will be reading soon. I've heard from the comment section that this is an adaptation of Beowulf, so I'm interested in reading it since I really do love Beowulf. I have read the Seamus Heaney version of Beowulf, and I've also read the Tolkien translation of Beowulf. So the next book I have to show is The White Goddess by Robert Graves. So this book is essential if you want to understand the feminine journey, and it's one that I've already started reading and I'm really liking it. It touches on a lot of the things that Joseph Campbell touched on in his Goddess book, but it's very interesting and I'm always keen to improve my knowledge. So the third and final book I have is Persephone Rising by Carol S. Pearson. She is the author of The Hero Within and Awakening the Heroes Within. So this book concerns awakening the heroine within, and I have got Awakening the Hero Within, so this is another of her books that I'm going to add to my collection. I was very excited to get this because I think it's a great addition. I'm familiar with Carol S. Pearson since I have one of her books and I really do enjoy her writing and her style, so I was very excited to get this one. So that's on to we've finished with the book haul, onto the book review. So this was a book that was recommended to me, and it's a very small book. It's a little bit like a pamphlet, to be honest. And despite being very small, it gave me a lot to think about. And I just wanted to go over some of the concepts in the book with you guys. It's not one that you can spoil, essentially. It's about socialism, and William Morris was an artist. He was also a socialist. He was very politically involved, and this is one of his very prominent works, and it accompanies an essay that sort of talks about his life and talks about the impact of his worldview on his work, but it also talks about how the early socialists differed from the, let's say, modern socialists. They don't differ much, but on a few things that you will discover if you read this. It was a very interesting read. I am not a socialist, so this was interesting for me to read as something that I don't subscribe to. So it was something that made me really think about my views on socialism and how it's enacted in the world and how it could be enacted in the world. And I think the main thing I want to say about this little booklet is that if you go into it with an open mind, you will learn something new, and you will be, your thinking about socialism will be transformed. Like me, you may not come out of it being a socialist. I've read it, I really enjoyed it, I'm still not a socialist. But I think that whenever you read something, especially something that's written well, you're supposed to take away something from it. And what I took away from this book is that when it comes to socialism, it is a grand idea. It would be lovely if everyone could work and there was no exploitation and people were not taken advantage of by big corporations, that would be a lovely vision of the world. And as a Christian, it appealed to me, and it appealed to I wouldn't say that I'm the most righteous person, definitely not, but I would say that it appealed to that human instinct to want better for the group, because it does appeal, the socialism as a concept appeals to that human instinct to better the group, which is why we've built up civilization. If you look at the core of why we've built up this whole civilization that we have, it's so that not just ourselves can profit, but other people in our group can also profit. That's the whole concept of teamwork. That's why we built this entire civilization. But socialism, unfortunately, is something that is far-fetched, and it's sad that it is. However, the main pitfall of socialism is that it ignores human nature too much in order to try and make its point. For example, one of the things that the pamphlet talks about is this utopia-like situation where the proletariat rises up against the bourgeoisie, and they have this revolution that results in a system where everyone is paid fairly and people work for progress instead of profit. And money as a system is abolished. What this doesn't take into account is the historical view that I kind of came into it with, which is that before money, that we had trade. And anytime you have people interacting and wanting to trade, you will always have somebody who has more than someone else, or whose product that they want to trade is valued more than someone else's. That right there is how capitalism is born. The moment you have something that is considered worth more than something else, even if you take the material money out of it, because what is money? Money is literally just the thing that we have swapped in terms of trade. It's, okay, you give me, I'll give you this much currency in return for this many hours, or in return for your cow, or in return for whatever it is that you want to give me. We've just switched trade with having money, or before it was gold coins or silver. In the Roman Empire, it was salt. So it doesn't matter the medium we choose to use. Capitalism is ingrained into the human psyche. It's not something we invented, it's how we work, because capitalism thrives on competition. That being said, I do agree with many of the points in here, which is what I was talking about when I said you have to come out with something. I came out with a better understanding of socialism. I also came out with an appreciation of why people want socialism to be a thing. But it also deepened my own understanding of why I am not a socialist, because I was able to see, based on the clear arguments given, that I don't agree with some of these things, and it's on a fundamental level because it ignores too much about human nature to be realistic in this world. Sort of the last thing that I will say about the book, and one of the points that it makes, is that in order for you to have a certain amount of profitable growth in a short amount of time, there needs to be some sort of exploitation. That's just the way it works. Let's take the growth of Russia during the Soviet Union, for example. In order for Russia to come out of its place after the Second World War, where it was basically behind all the other European countries, in order for it to take its place in the system that the West had set up and be a forerunner in terms of technology, the people had to bear grueling consequences. There were 5-year plans that had to be adhered to. The suffering of the Russian population was immense. but it led to a quick amount of progress. Now, if Stalin didn't want the Russian population to carry that burden, he would have had to colonize a country and shift the burden onto them. That's how it works. If you want a massive amount of growth, if you like the iPhones, if you like the fact that we can have internet, that I could talk to you and through the internet right now and you can see me wherever you are in the world, some poor child in the Congo has to go down a mine shaft no bigger than himself, and he has to get himself high just to be able to endure the suffocating heat that's down there in those mines. And that's just so we can have access to this technology. So what socialism doesn't take into account is that if you shift the suffering that you have to bear in order to get this amount of progress onto your population, they cry that you're taking away their rights. But if you shift it onto somebody else's population, you're a colonizer. And that brings a whole bunch of trouble. So you can't really pick and choose. And where William Morris is sort of talking from is a point of privilege. He was not a poor person himself. He grew up in a very rich family. And this is not to say that if you grew up in privilege, you have no right to speak. Definitely not the case. If not, I wouldn't be able to speak. But it's basically saying that if you're going to make an assessment or if you're going to subscribe to a political belief, you also do have to take the cons and as well as the pros. For example, capitalism isn't the most fair of systems because those who are unable, physically unable to do anything for themselves are left behind. They're disadvantaged, they're made to suffer. Those who are exploited continue to be exploited in order for profit and our luxury. It's not the most just of systems. And I understand that. And that's why I'm not a ultra capitalist, like, oh, let's not just care about anyone who can't work. I don't think most people are, but I also understand that it is the most realistic system that you can implement with human beings. So I really enjoyed the book. I seriously recommend it. Yes, I didn't agree with everything that was said, but it taught me a lot and informed me a lot better about socialism than I had previously read in other places. So I thank you very much for this recommendation. It would not have come to my attention if it were not for this comment section, and I am so grateful for all the recommendations that you guys give me and for all the support that you give me as well. So I hope that this book review has interested you and I didn't ramble on too much. I'm trying to cut back on the rambling. I promise I'm working on it. So thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you have a lovely day. This has been the Malika Writes channel.